We wanted to create something really diverse and something that had, that encompassed the proper feeling of the conflict. We felt the best way to do that was to make two separate scores that would be completely different from one another, because you get that very often where you have just one big orchestral score and it's plastered wall to wall, you know. And so the overall difference in the feeling between the two scores is what creates a feeling of identity, and it matches the visual identity of the two opposing factions. First thing we started to do was like pre-visualization of what we wanted it to sound like. So it was like a short video actually. And the one thing that we did was we used one of Lauren's songs in it, and that came quite as a surprise because it worked perfectly, you know. So we decided that basically it might be an idea to reach out to him and see if he wanted to get involved.
When I met Lewis and they were developing the game, I saw Container City, which is pretty much like a futuristic favela. That was something I really latched onto, just sort of identifying with the Helghast, I guess. Getting into their mindset, you know, they've been relocated, their home has been devastated, you know, they've just been stepped on again and again and again. You know, that really inspired me. So the sound sort of is always rattling against itself and like metal plates on top of each other. There's a history, you know?
This was an interesting challenge, I have to say, because I was coming up against this disenfranchised society, this dystopian universe, and for once I'm tapped to do the more major sounding score, which is pretty rare for me. The challenge of that is the harder you push melodies that exist in major, the more they can become cheesy. So there was this cheating of major and minor and restating the main theme for Killzone in a way that's recognizable but not as major sounding.
A lot of my mixing techniques for the soundtrack, you know, involve just taking the track itself and just blasting it through valves, just getting it so it's just like this crunchy texture, recording final mixes from the speakers and embedding that inside of the sound. So there's a lot of like distortion, and not necessarily distortion in terms of, you know, turning it up to 11, but just distortion in the story, I guess, you know, like beating it up, like they were beat up, you know, sort of stepped on, like they were stepped on.
A lot of the tape processing and a lot of the kind of the stuff that you did really lent to that idea of the sort of dystopian Cold War, a believable Cold War, but set in an alternate universe in 500 years from now.
This is more of a synth-based score for me. The reason is it just has that sort of crisp, cold vibe about it. So that's what we're thinking about. We're thinking futuristic, we're thinking about the essence of the people, the ISA, you know. Really, Lewis is the conduit for all this because both of our scores are being filtered through Lewis's imagination of how they should be applied.
To build it and to change it and to constantly manipulate it and play with the idea and let that evolve, and then to actually hear, like, to listen to the soundtrack all together for the first time was just really kind of surreal almost.